wish you'd be quiet so I can take my video.
What you doing?
Recording a video.
Can I be in this one?
No.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy.
This is the father of my child.
Hey. You see that?
Children.
Got this. She's really superhuman, by the way. She does such a phenomenal job with the kids. We have 3 of them now. Most people wouldn't be able to do what she does with one of them. Oh God, our dog's outside. I gotta go.
Yeah. Hi. Hi. So as promised, I am making this video about my labor and delivery story. I'm so sorry that I've been away for a while, but what I'm doing to make up that whole time that I was gone for you guys is making a lot of videos and putting them out. And if you're interested in knowing what lip color this is, I'm gonna put it in the description below. You're probably not interested, but I'm obsessed, so I'm going to leave it there anyway. And if you don't know, I induced this labor with the Midwife's Brew, and I'm gonna leave the link to the 2 videos that I have on that, the frequently asked questions that I just did because this time I did it for the 2nd time, and of course I'll leave the link for the video for the very first time when I actually had the recipe and made it, and I'll leave a link for my labor and delivery story for my daughter, which was 2 years ago. Alright, so let's get started on this. First of all, I had an all-natural birth and I induced myself at home. So I was told that I couldn't go any further in the pregnancy because I was having these issues with my blood sugar and being on insulin, and that is just can be a whole nother video on what happened with that. But I had to deliver the baby earlier. So I told my midwife and doctors and stuff, because they have both at the practice that I attend, that I really wanted to have an all-natural birth. I didn't want to be induced medically because I was induced medically with my oldest son, and it was just a terrible experience for me. I almost had to have a C-section. I just really was not for it. So I told them I was going to induce myself at home the same way I did with my daughter, using the Midwife's Brew, and it was really effective then. Now this time I wasn't sure if it would be as effective because I was going to be 38 weeks and 6 days, so just shy of 39 weeks. Where with my daughter, I was over 40 weeks. So I wasn't sure that my body was even ready. So what I did was I made sure I had a lot of raspberry leaf tea beforehand, and did the evening primrose, where you take it orally and put it in vaginally to make sure everything's softening up and just getting ready for you to go into labor. So the day that I was going to induce, I was like, okay, I need to make a big batch of raspberry leaf tea. So I made this huge batch of raspberry leaf tea, like a whole pot, and just drank it all throughout the day. And I did that in order to make my contractions really strong, really effective when it was time for me to induce that night. And for some reason in my head, at night is the time to induce. I don't know. To me, it just seems like your body works better at night with getting into the contractions. I don't know why, but I really believe that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do this after my children go to sleep, which also is a plus, right? Because I have 2 very small children, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. So I wanted them to be asleep. So I made the brew at, it was later than I wanted it to be. I made it at 12 midnight, and then I tried to just stay up because I was like, okay, well, I'll get these contractions, so I might as well not sleep, right? So I turned on one of my favorite movies, which is Gentlemen Prefer Blonde with Marilyn Monroe and Jane Russell. Old movie, old. But anyway, turned that on. My husband was sleeping, of course, and tried to watch the movie. But I was getting tired, so I was like, you know what, let me just go and try to lay down. But at that point, my stomach was, you know, getting tighter and stuff. So I knew that it was working, but it wasn't like, you know, hitting me over the head with anything, right? So I was like, all right, let me just try to go to sleep. And this was like maybe an hour and a half later. But I didn't sleep long because my contractions woke me up. And so at this point, it's probably, what time did I start feeling those contractions for real, for real? I think it was like 3:30, almost 4 o'clock, when I really felt my contractions and I could not sleep. So I called up my doula and I was like, listen, I took my midwife's brew, like I said, and I'm really feeling my contractions. I think I'm in labor. She's like, are you sure? You know, is this something you can sleep through, go back to sleep? And I'm like, nope, it's not. I can really feel it. So she was like, okay, well, I'm in another labor right now. So I'm gonna have to call the backup doula. And I'm like, what? Okay, cool. You know, at this point, I didn't want anything to distract me from my goal of having a natural birth with no epidural. So I was like, all right, let me just not even stress the fact that my actual doula is not going to be here. Let me just stay focused. So I sat down and I started to think to myself about the goals that I wanted to have for the labor and delivery, because at this point the contractions were hurting and I started to see myself get a little fearful and say, okay, I'm gonna need an epidural because this hurts already. So if it goes any further, I'm gonna just like lose it. But I was like, okay, that's the fear, because when you're not afraid and when you're not feeling the pain, you're always saying you're gonna go no epidural. So don't let the fear fool you into not reaching your goal. And I'm really glad, really glad that I told myself that. So I just was like, okay, well, what can I do? So I started thinking of some of the tactics that I learned in this book that I read called Mindful Birthing. And I will leave a link below, an Amazon link. Of course, it's going to be affiliated because Amazon is not going to have me sending you or anyone else there, and I'm not getting credit for that. That's crazy. But it is where you can get the book. Also, you can get it through iTunes, not iTunes, but through your phone. You can listen to it through audiobook if you want to as well. So yeah, those are options if you're interested in it. But basically there was one tip that I really zeroed in on, and that tip was to smile through the contractions. Sounded crazy when I first heard it, but it made sense. And I wanted to smile from a place where I really felt happy. So I tried to think of some happy thoughts and also the excitement of having a new baby, right? So I went to that. I was like, okay. And then also mindful birthing. You want to be mindful of what else is going on. So when I was going through my contractions, I would ask myself, okay, do you feel the pain of the contractions? The answer, of course, is yes, I feel the pain. And then I would ask myself, okay, what else do you feel? So I would tap my finger on my knee, and I'm like, okay, I can feel my finger tapping on my knee. And it really just helped me to focus elsewhere. I could feel my toes tapping on the ground, right? So I was doing that, and I was smiling and breathing very nicely, and it was very calm, and I listened to good calm music. And by the time the doula came to the house, it was about 2 hours later. It was about 6 o'clock, because it was like 3:30, so 6 o'clock, 2.5 hours later. She got there and we were talking, and she's like, okay, you know, how are you feeling? And I was having contractions as she was talking, and I would just smile through it and be very calm. And she's like, okay, well, how far is the hospital? About 30 minutes from my house, I told her. And she's like, all right, well, you know, your contractions are pretty close together, so maybe we should start heading there. And I'm like, all right, but you know, I just didn't want to be there so early, and I'm only 2 centimeters dilated or something. I was not 2 centimeters, let me tell you. But anyway, I was like, I don't want to be 2 centimeters dilated and, you know, take forever. And she's like, well, let's just go and be safe. I was like, all right, cool. Oh my God, what's going on in my background? So anyway, I was like, all right, cool. Because the next contraction, I promise you, I felt like I could feel my body go, like, as I'm smiling, like, I felt my body feel like it was going like, okay. And I was like, okay, that was very effective. I use words like effective instead of painful. That was very effective. And that really, no, really, it really did help. And so I'm leaving out and I'm joking about what shoes I'm gonna wear. And I get in the car and we're driving in the car. My husband's driving, and then the doula is behind us. My mom was at the house, so there was someone home with the kids. Didn't leave the kids alone. And so in the ride, I'm like, all right, you need to drive fast when the contraction is off. And when it's on, I'm gonna tell you it's on so you can slow down so I won't feel uncomfortable. So okay, so I'm trying to tell him how to drive and everything. He started getting an attitude with me, honey. Oh my God, because I was telling him how to drive and being a passenger seat driver. I was in labor and I started to actually feel pressure. So I thought he was being a jerk. Comment below if you think that was kind of a jerk move. But anyway, so I'm starting to feel pressure and I'm like, all right, we really need to hurry up. This guy, my husband, misses the exit because he has a little tude about me telling him how to drive. So he misses the exit and we're like pulling up to the hospital. I'm feeling pressure. They get me in the wheelchair, they push me upstairs. My doula's already there waiting for us. Okay, and so she pushes me in the wheelchair up to delivery and my husband parks. And so we get there and they're like, ma'am, what's wrong? And at this point it was, I could see the clock. So they had this huge clock and it was 7:15 and I'm like, I think I'm in labor. And they're like, okay, well just check in right over there, blah blah blah. So my doula wheels me over to the counter and they're asking for my ID and for my insurance card, and she's trying to get it out for me because at that time I'm breathing through a contraction. And she's like, you know what, ma'am, can we just save this for later because she's telling me that she feels pressure and I don't think we have time for that. And they're like, oh, okay, don't worry about it. We leave my ID and insurance card with this lady and go into triage. Get in there, the nurse is like, okay, I'm gonna need a urine sample and here's your gown. I go into the bathroom, I'm like, listen, I cannot give a urine sample. I literally was feeling pressure. And because I was just so calm and smiling and like, oh, you guys, I feel pressure. You know, I feel pressure. But they didn't think that I was as far along as I was. So I'm like, I can't do it. And she's like, all right, well just put on your gown. So I take off all my clothes and I'm reaching for the gown, and literally as I'm reaching for this gown, boom, my water just breaks, and it's just it's crazy. And honestly, with my other two children, my water did not break until they had to break it for me at 9 centimeters. So I knew, I was like, whoa, I'm further along than I thought. So someone gets a glove, a nurse gets a glove, checks me. She's like, she's fully dilated. I'm like, I'm telling you, I have to push. And they're like, oh no. So they push me in the bed. They're like, get in the bed. I have on no clothes. I'm butt naked. And they realize this before they push me out into the hallway. So they throw a sheet over me and they boom, rush me out the hallway, all into the hallway. My husband's there at that point and he's like running beside us, and the doula too, and he's running. He's like, this is like a movie, blah blah. And I'm looking around and like, don't push. And there's this lady on the side and she's clearly getting a medical induction because she's like waiting it out. She's like, oh, like I wish that was me. And so they push me in there and they get me onto the other bed, and my doctor rolls in. She's like, all right, I'm here. She still had on the clothes. She didn't even have on like anything to show that she was there to do a job of delivering my child. But anyway, so I'm just like, all right, fine, push. And at this point the contractions shift, and obviously I cannot get an epidural. It's way too late, but I don't know, for some reason, because I was smiling and just taking it on easily, it wasn't as bad as my other births were. And so I'm pushing and it feels like burning, and I'm at this point the contractions, before, you know, it felt painful and I'm like, not really feeling it. But this time, when it's time to push, I was like, yes, there's a contraction, let's go, push. Ooh. So I pushed the baby. It took 3 pushes and he was out and on my chest, and it was incredible, crazy. I mean, oh my God, it was just a lot. And let me tell you, at this point it was 7:29. Okay, so I arrived 7:15 and I had the baby on my chest 7:29. That's how fast. So when I was in the car telling my husband that I felt pressure to push, yeah, I was very serious. I felt pressure. So so yeah, that was my labor and delivery, and the nurses were like, oh my God, we were supposed to send more people to help, but we couldn't find the room because you were so quiet. She was like, I've never seen one of them was like, I've never seen anything like that. She smiled through the whole thing. Like, you need to have your birth here every time and call me, and I want to be a part of it because that was incredible. I've never seen that, and I'm not Superwoman or anything, and it doesn't mean it wasn't painful. I just tried to think positive. The pain is in your stomach, but the endorphins, the oxytocin, I feel like you feel it up here. So instead I try to just lift myself and think high and smile and just bring my awareness up, right, and lift it, if that doesn't sound crazy, but you understand, right? Anyone who does meditation or yoga or anything like that can probably relate to taking yourself to a good place. And you could do that in labor and totally not need an epidural. If I were to have more children, I would not have an epidural at all. It was not necessary. And I know that sounds crazy. And if I said that to myself before with my other 2 labors where I needed an epidural, I would have been like, honey, please, that pain is But if you have the tools to cope with it, you can totally do it. But yeah, that was it. And I had my baby on my chest, my little boy, and he was just so yummy, so sweet, and I'm just so glad that I have my baby. Yes. So that was it. All right, I don't want this video to be much longer, but thanks for watching. Thanks for watching my labor and delivery story and sharing mine. I love labor and delivery stories, so if you have one, please share with me in the comment section below and I will read it and be really excited to see how your labor and delivery went or what you expect out of your labor and delivery. You also can share that. Please remember to subscribe so you can get notifications of my upcoming videos. And a matter of fact, when you hit the subscribe button, remember to hit the button that has a little bell, whatever that button is, because YouTube, I don't know, it's weird, but to get those notifications, you have to hit that little bell. And I know I get my little email notifications and stuff, and I love it because I need to know what my people that I've subscribed to have a new video. So do that for me, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye.